Hi there, this is Ellen Petronella, and today I'm coming in with part 2 of putting together my travel stitch journal. In case you missed the first part when I'm assembling and choosing which and wanderlust patterns to put into my journal, you can watch the previous video. And by the way, all of the embroidery designs that you're seeing here are unique designs in my pattern shop. So you can look the link below. Here we've got Venice from Italy. On the back, we got a design from Munich in Germany. And inside, you're going to have loads of different ones. So you can browse. There are over 100 unique architectural embroidery designs. I call them wanderlust patterns because really that's how I look at this practice. It's such a wanderlust practice, connecting with places, on a deeper level, stitch by stitch. It's like you're getting to know them closer. So last week I showed you just kind of how I went about in choosing which designs that would go into my journal to create kind of like a curated experience. And today I realized that, you know what, I've actually done several pages already. So not entirely, they're not all completed, but I've started putting them together into actually cutting them out in a good size. And I just wanted to show you a little bit how I'm putting them together, the whole logic behind it. All right, so if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel because I am currently working on this series and I'll be adding a lot more. This year is all about going in on YouTube as Ellen Petronella. I'm really excited. All right, so I'll start by just moving over those that aren't entirely attached. So you can see here, just before I've attached the pages, I cut out two different designs so that when assembled together, I will be stitching them together here. They are the size, the two of them make up a page. So technically, let's be real. These are technically 2 pages, right? Why do I call it a page? It's because I'm working in a block of 2s every time, because once I assemble them, and by the way, I do also have a free workshop on how I assemble my stitch journal. If you haven't taken that yet, do check the link below and you can learn how I assemble my stitch journals. Now, this one, I'm preparing the pages in advance, but I'll still be assembling them in more or less the same way. So the reason why I can do 2 pages together in this way is because they are going to be facing each other. I will be closing the page in this manner. All of them are going to be closed facing each other. So that's why I can do the 2 ones that are kind of chosen to be together. I can do those on the same open spread because I'm going to fold all of the pages in this manner, you see? And I'll be stitching them together here at the base before stitching them into the cover, all right? But now I'm running ahead of myself. It's just to make you see why I choose to do a full open spread. I mean, let's also be frank. I don't want to go through the headache. It's not a pleasure for me to go through the headache of calculating. Let's assume that I would just stitch into the spine here in the middle, and then I would be flipping through this way. It would be too much of a headache for me to kind of calculate which designs to put where on which page in order for all of them to just align. It just makes it so much easier to do work in spread and always fold that spread facing each other. I hope this made sense. Please do let me know in the comments below if you're still having questions just about the organization of things. So here are 2 designs from Luxembourg. Hence, that's why they are going to face each other when I open this spread inside the book. Once it's stitched in, they will make sense in a storyline way. So we'll be traveling through Luxembourg on this particular spread. Here we have France, and you can see I was just playing a little bit. So in a stitch journal, it's all about just using your creativity to find fun ways of spicing it up. So I'm using these pre-stitched designs that I have already embroidered through the years and that I'm not currently using for anything else. And I just thought, you know what? I picked up this same yellow that I used for this building. This is in Lille in France, and this is in south of France. So we've got two buildings from France, thereby them going together. And as there were some flowers here and stuff, I picked those bits up and I decided, you know, I'll just do some flowers to put those two together. One thing that I do pay attention to is that I don't want to assemble the page exactly in the middle. The reason being that when I fold the spread facing each other, so again, repeating what I literally just said, I don't want the stitch to be here in the middle, because when I embroider the pages together and when I stitch it into the frame, into the cover, it will make it unnecessarily chunky if there's a lot of additional stitches in this area. So I want to keep the absolute middle. I want to keep that clean. This is why, I don't know if you did notice it, but that's why you will see as we go through the pages I've done so far, or I've started preparing, that I will attach them not in the absolute middle, but a little bit to one side. It was exactly the same with the Luxembourg spread as well. You can see one being a little bit bigger and the other one slightly smaller, so that when I attach it, it's not going to be in the exact middle. It will be a little bit to the side. I'm planning to put these together in picking up inspiration from the greenery here. So I'll be stitching it with some greenery leaves, most likely. We'll probably see that in the next video to not make each update too long. All right, here we've got a South Europe spread. So this is Portugal and this is Spain. And the reason being that this Portugal page here is going to come just before a spread that I'm working on here with Portugal again. So that is kind of like the bridge or the transition. So reminder to watch the previous video, just based on how I'm curating these to create a storytelling experience, wandering through Europe through these designs. So eventually this will be a spread with South Portugal. Those will be facing, and I'll be stitching the back sides together. So eventually you won't see the back side either. So it will go from South Europe, we've got Spain, over to Portugal. When we flip over, we'll have two more spreads of Portugal. Okay, these ones aren't completely cut out yet, so I'll move those. Here, I again picked up on the little colors of the flower here, and I started doing this running stitch. In case you've seen a few years back when I was working more with my husband, he used to do a lot of these Van Gogh inspired skies with moving running stitches, capturing the movement. And I thought, you know, as this is just contour work on this design, that could be really fun way to connect the two, and potentially I'll continue to just do the sky in this type of Van Gogh running stitch movement type of inspiration. I don't know exactly yet. Maybe I'm running ahead of myself, but that's where my mind is going. So for now, I'm focusing again on assembling the spreads first. All these little details, they can come later. That is why I'm saying I've done the pages, but not entirely, because, you know, you can always add a little sprinkles here and there. And here we've got another South Europe spread. Here I played with some other techniques. Stitch journals are a perfect way to just play around with different techniques, different ways of doing things. My goal is kind of to have each spread being a bit unique, telling a different story. So I used the base of this wonderful floral curtain that you probably saw another, one of the other designs. Yes, this one of Luxembourg is stitched on the same thrifted curtain. And then I cut out this little design, and instead of stitching around it, I actually attached it. So it is already stitched onto the page. You can see it's not falling off. I actually just stitched the contours again. So you can see I, for example, continued the what's it called? The floor, the stone floor, the stones on the floor, the pavement. Yeah, it's stones here. In Southern Europe, there's a lot of stones on the ground in the gardens and things like that. And so I just continued Basically, instead of making separate stitches, I just made the attachment stitches blend in. I also did that around here. I stitched the contour a second time. You can see it with a slight difference of the brown and black. So I thought, you know, like that, it will soften up the harsh black contours. I did there. I also stitched it in between these little knots to attach. You can see it more clearly on the back side. Here you see how I have stitched around, and on the front, we don't see any of it. So this is another fun little idea of how you can put in a design without necessarily making it a big event. Like here it's clearly like I'm attaching the pages, you see? Whereas here I did it much more subtle. Here I had a big enough piece of fabric to just make the design an entire spread, and I'm planning to put another architectural scenery here with the same background. I believe I showed that to you in the previous video, but I can bring it out here again. I'm thinking this one, as it's the same fabric base, I'm thinking to cut that out and put it here so that that creates the open spread in a similar, more graphical style. And lastly, we got here another full spread. This is America, so I'm thinking I'll be taking one of the other America designs. This particular one is in Boston, and by the way, here you can see exactly what I just mentioned. This was Charles who embroidered this a few years ago, this Van Gogh inspired running stitch sky. So you see a little bit here what I took inspiration from when doing, now I put it away here, when doing these running stitches here. So I'm thinking I might put a door here. Alternatively, I'll put, as Boston isn't too far from New York, I'll potentially put this West Village Cafe. Haven't entirely decided yet. But again, the focus in this first round of pages is to create the spreads. It also, thanks to having done this one, as well as the one from, this is also Spain, by the way, this one. Having created these two, they kind of served as templates for the spreads coming after. So, yeah. How to know how many pages to do? Well, I fold them, put them on top of each other, and that immediately gives me the approximate once we close it together. So you see now, you start seeing the logic when I do this now. I'll be stitching them together here in the base and then attach. Okay, so I'm just putting now the pages that I've just finished. I'm closing the book and I can keep check in this way. I can see that, okay, I can probably squeeze in roughly as many more. So I've done kind of half. All right. Thank you so much. Oh, now I'm just flipping through. Let's just leave one open to have something pretty to look at. Thank you so much for watching this part 2 update on how I'm putting together this travel stitch journal. Today we walked through the first few pages that I've done, the first few spreads, and I'm realizing as I show this to you, I've actually done quite a few spreads already. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm on my 6th spread here. So I'm working through just putting together those spreads, and I'll be updating you in the next one with wherever I am in the next one, whenever I've done a few more pages, a few more spreads, and potentially some more details. If you want to stitch any of these designs, they are all available in the pattern shop, link below. I've got over 100 architectural wanderlust patterns inspired from our beautiful world. And if you haven't yet started putting together your stitch journal, don't miss to take the free stitch journal workshop on how you can assemble your own journal. Okay, I will see you in the next one. Bye.